Leistikow, Scott Dochterman. The two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers together on one show. GameDay Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners. Best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners. Exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Big Ten fans, and Hawkeye fans. I'm all over the place, and Iowans everywhere. Hawkeye fans, all fans. Penn State fans, welcome. Wisconsin fans, welcome if you're listening. Iowa State fans, welcome. This is Legends and Listeners with Chad Leistikow here of the Des Moines Register, Scott Dochterman. Athletic, brought to you by GameDay Men's Health, as always, here on Iowa Everywhere. As always, from the Channel Seed Studios. And what a fun week, Scott. This past week, we got to ride up and back to Madison together. Your prediction for that game, kind of a quiet prediction that Iowa would dominate that game, came true. Hawkeyes win that 37-0. And then we were joking, I think, on the drive, like, oh, you're going to write Luke Fickell's obituary this weekend for the Athletic, Scott, and then you're going to write James Franklin's next weekend. We were kind of just joking about that. And then it turns out there was one coach that got the axe, and it's the one that I was facing this week. So it makes for a really good Legends and Listeners this week. Very timely.
It's amazing, isn't it, Chad, how things can change so quickly in this day and age. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we're in the press box, and Penn State takes the lead in overtime in a whiteout against Oregon. There are two teams in the top six, and you think, wow, this is maybe Penn State finally gets it done. And then, of course, they go all James Franklin and lose. But then what happened right afterwards is really interesting. And we talked a little bit about it this week as well, that it's in some ways, after James Franklin lost to UCLA and then Northwestern at home, that the trust factor the fans had at Happy Valley was non-existent. It's over, that they don't believe that they can win, and they're not going to win a national title this year. There's just no way. But they don't believe they can get it done with him. And in some ways, there is some parallels to the basketball situation in Iowa, where fans quit buying in. Now, it was different planes. Penn State was expecting to compete for a national title. Iowa was just expecting to get to the Sweet 16. But when you can't reach that level, that after a while, fans just tap out. And at Penn State, they finally did. And I think we were all surprised, though, it happened in the middle of the year. And this is a team and a program that was one drive away. They were tied 24-24 in a national semifinal in January in the Orange Bowl with a chance to go to the national title game. And here you are, you're fired your coach, and you owe him a mitigated amount, $45 million, subtract whatever he goes somewhere else. But still, it's no less shocking to me that here we are, Chad, in this week.
Yeah, definitely. It's just jarring. It's just very jarring to see it happen so quick. And asked Kirk Ferentz about that on Tuesday, just sort of like his feelings on that. I mean, you look at the two coaches, and they were the two longest tenured coaches in the Big Ten Conference. So, Ferentz at 27 years, Franklin at 12. So a pretty long time by coaching standards. And, it's just the way of the world, Ferentz said, and that's absolutely right. I mean, there's not a lot of patience right now out there, and it's big bucks, big business. You guys all know that. But that definitely leads into some extra drama now for this week's game at Kinnick, and whether that's an advantage or disadvantage for the Hawkeyes. We'll get to the matchup part of that later in the show, but I wanted to kind of just talk about the potential ramifications of what happens next with the Penn State hire, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and then you have to think that Luke Fickell's in trouble, right, at Wisconsin. I mean, he's still got his job as far as I know, but Ohio State comes to town this week, and believe it or not, the schedule gets no easier after that. So it's going to get pretty ugly in Madison. Do they win another game? I don't think so. The way we saw them play, maybe they could beat Minnesota. I don't know. I mean, be hard to. It's hard to picture them winning another game. How bad they are. Are they the worst team in the Big Ten?
Oh,
Wisconsin?
no question. No question.
Okay.
They would lose to
Isn't
Purdue.
that something?
Yeah. I mean, that's as shocking as I've seen of a game, just because for so many years, Chad, it was like Wisconsin and Iowa are like kissing cousins. You know, one's wearing red, one's wearing black. They have the same tenets. They do things differently, but both of them are such physical, disciplined, tough teams. And to see the way that they didn't perform, and they were terrible in every single facet of the game. And a lot of it was discussed about them being ranked, sixth or fourth or whatever in the country in run defense, 75 yards a game. Well, there's a reason for that. That first of all, the first two opponents weren't any good. And, you know, and the last three just passed. I mean, that's all they had to do. And so now, and Michigan did run the ball on them a little bit, but Iowa saw something. And I rewatched the tape. I'm sure you did too. You did your DVR Monday and everything. And that there was no gap integrity whatsoever on defense. They were just a horrifically coached team, frankly. It's got to go to coaching when you see every fundamental slip. And then when you see the talent level that they don't have, they are clearly last in the Big Ten. I mean, Purdue would finally end its streak, which it hasn't won in like 20 some years against Wisconsin. It would end it this year because Purdue's better than they are. And it shocked me. I don't know what you thought, but man, I mean, last year I thought, okay, this is just some team, you know, really flexing. Yeah. This year it's like, you guys suck.
Yeah, it's their offensive line's young, and you know we witnessed that covering the Hawkeyes. You know, 21, 22, the O lines were especially 22, I would say, like really inexperienced and not that good. But so they're dealing with that. They're dealing with like a almost a Deacon Hill-esque situation at quarterback. They're they just don't have that. They don't have a physical. They don't even have a defense they can lean on anymore. You know, that used to be the big thing. It was running game, obviously, but man, those defenses under Jim Leonard were just so tough. I mean, just remember, I still think of Joe Schobert just coming into the backfield at will, and Iowa somehow winning that game in 2015, 10-6. But it took like 4 turnovers by the Iowa defense against Joel Stave, and that was the one year they didn't have really a good quarterback. And anyway, I'll find a tangent there. But point being is the Wisconsin coach is in trouble here, and Penn State coach is out. So, Scott, what dominoes do you see kind of falling here now in the coming days? Because there are some Big Ten coaches being rumored to head to Penn State. There's an Iowa State coach on that list that also could have a domino effect at a different school. So, why don't you start with Penn State? What do you see? What are you hearing over at The Athletic? What could be happening?
Well, our list includes Matt Rhule. It has to start at number 1. He's a Penn State grad. He's from Pennsylvania, kind of classified as his dream job. And he's at Nebraska now. And he's got a chance to, have a pretty nice season at Nebraska, and the potential to be a special season if they, win some important games. He's the one that I think everybody's first identifying, and he can say whatever he wants now. It's October, 15th, 16th. It doesn't matter until we get to the end of November before things really start to shape up. And so he's number 1 on the list. I think you got to also look at Luke Fickell from what we've just said. I have his contract. It was reported that he's owed like $27 million. I think it's more like 30 for Luke Fickell. And if he's out, that brings the swirl in full circle for people in our neighborhood. Right. And that is Matt Campbell. Mm-hmm. And, Matt Campbell should be a candidate for any of these jobs. He is an outstanding football coach. And that doesn't matter if they lost 2 straight in the Big 12. And, it's hard at a place like Iowa State where you have talent but you have very little depth. And it's hard to acquire it. When you see it at Iowa, it's even more so, I think, at Iowa State. And I think that anybody would have to kick the tires on him, whether that's Penn State, whether Wisconsin makes a move, whether Matt Rhule leaves Nebraska. And for Penn State,
and then that
Nebraska,
job opens potentially.
Exactly. And then you have Nebraska open, and you have him. If Michigan State opens up after second year of Jonathan Smith, because they're terrible.
They're 17th in the Big Ten, maybe.
Yeah, they're 17th. I did grades this week, and it was like a bell curve. I had 3 A's and 3 F's, and they were an F. Penn State was an F too.
Who was the other
Penn
F?
State.
Oh, yeah. Duh.
Yeah. Penn State. UCLA was like, I almost like had to make it like an ampersand category or something. You know, they didn't even deserve a letter grade because it's so whacked out. But you know, it plays that factor. You know, I mean, for Penn State, outside of Matt Rhule, Kirk Cignetti is one that'll probably get the most attention because he is a Western PA guy. And if anybody would fit in there, and we've seen how he's taken Indiana from being the dredges of sport into the top 3, and maybe they're underranked at this point. You know, so you've got those two that could really reshape the Big Ten if one of those two decides to end up leaving. But then, you know, you have all kinds of other options, I suppose, on there. You know, you could look at, you know, there's Eli Drinkwitz from Mizzou. Would he be in there?
Another one that's getting some buzz, yeah.
Brian Kelly from LSU, you know, you know, that's another one being mentioned. And then you have, you know, Manny Diaz from Duke. He was a defensive coordinator at Penn State. Fran Brown at Syracuse, even Lance Leipold, who I think would be in play for a couple of the other jobs, the you know, the aftershock jobs, you know, after this.
Right.
So, but all
what about
things
Pat
told,
Fitzgerald? What about Pat Fitzgerald?
ripple effect, maybe not at Penn State.
Not Penn State, okay.
Especially, he was absolved of the scandal that was at Northwestern. However, the scandal is pretty near to what happened at Penn State.
Sure.
So you really want to remove any optics.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, wouldn't put anything past Penn State necessarily. You know, they're going to get the best guy, but probably, you're right. Probably not the right fit. And I don't know if that would be what Fitz would even want anyway. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. So with that, I think it's not only interesting for Penn State, which I think is a top tier job, but it's also the ripple effect, as we discussed. You know, if Matt Rhule goes in play, then that opens up Nebraska. If Luke Fickell gets fired, and let's face it, his schedule after Iowa is number 1 Ohio State, then number 8 Oregon, then you play Washington, which could be ranked by then number 3 Indiana, Illinois. You don't think Bielema's not going to go up there and shovel dirt on that? And then finally, Minnesota, which is not going to feel pity for them, especially in Minneapolis. They like the axe. They're going to want to keep it. So they're going to have the same, you know, thought process that Iowa did against them. So I don't think they win another game. And if you're Wisconsin, can you risk this? You have to make a move. And to me, the two moves are either A, fire your AD, or B, fire your coach, or both. But I think you got to make one move. And if that opens up Wisconsin, and you have, say, Matt Rhule goes east, and you have Wisconsin and Nebraska open, then, you know, you're going to have a coach in Central Iowa in play for both. And I think, you know, that's, and he, you know, I imagine he should probably look at it. You know, now whether he leaves or not and wants to be the forever coach at Ames, that's his right. He's an outstanding coach, and he'd be great wherever he goes. But if let's say that scenario plays out, Chad, and I'll throw it to you.
Yeah.
Rhule leaves Nebraska. Luke Fickell gets fired. Matt Campbell's sitting there. Rank the three of them. Where you would want Matt Campbell least versus, well, not necessarily most, but if he's going to one of those three, if you're an Iowa fan, where do you not want him going versus where would it be, well, semi-tolerable because he is a pretty good coach?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say this. Honestly, I think Penn State would be crazy not to give Matt Campbell a hard look. I feel like listening to just some national media, and I don't know anything about what's going on at Penn State, but I see Matt Campbell's very, very low probability as a coach in the betting odds, and so I look at that stuff, and so it doesn't seem like he's enough of a splash hire for whatever reason that Penn State is looking for right away. but I think he would be tremendous wherever he goes. I mean, he really does build a program a lot like Kirk Ferentz does, a lot like, line of scrimmage, fundamentals, good defense and low risk. I mean, and like you said, I mean, he gets the most out of his players. And I think that's one of the criticisms of James Franklin is that he had the players and he could never get over the top of the big teams. And what'd you say on our last pod? Like the last time he beat a top 5 team was actually 2016.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, to me, that is the Fran McCaffrey Sweet 16 thing. I mean, that's what it is. He can't get whatever you do. You got the Jared Uthoff team, you got the Luka Garza team, and you still can't get to the Sweet 16. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, so with all that prefaced, I would say wherever Campbell goes, I think he will do a really good job. I think of those 3, I think if you're an Iowa fan, you probably at least want him to go in this very moment. You would at least want him to go to Wisconsin. Because that's a program right now that Iowa's got its foot on its throat, and you don't want them to get up off the mat. Right now at Iowa State, it's super competitive. Obviously, Iowa State's won 3 of the last 4. All of those games were decided by 3, right? So that Iowa State won.
Well, 3 or less, yeah.
3 or less, yeah. And, right, 3, 1, and 3. Yeah. So, him leaving might weaken Iowa State a little bit, but you're still very, very competitive with Iowa State right now. But if he goes to Wisconsin, I mean, Ferentz is going to leave at some point here, and that could really turn the tables on what Wisconsin is as a program versus whatever Iowa is. Iowa's, could be fine after Ferentz or whatever, but I feel like that's a place where he would be really successful. I think that would probably be the best fit for him. I also think Pat Fitzgerald would be a really good fit at Wisconsin. I think that would be interesting. I think he would do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just as far as how Pat Fitzgerald builds teams. Yeah. So I'd be worried if I was an Iowa fan about that too. So really, you just don't want Wisconsin to get a good coach. I mean, and again, I think you battle with them over recruiting more than Nebraska, right? I would say more head-to-head than Nebraska. Yeah. So that's what I would say on the 3, I guess. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, and I'll start kind of mentioning what you did about Penn State. And here's the biggest problem that athletic directors have, that donors have, that the institution that is college football has, is too many damn people want to try to win the press conference and not win the battle, but not the war, which is who gives up about winning a press conference, about having enough boosters. Yay, we love him, he's great, and everybody writing great headlines about it. Who cares? Because that's one day, and then he goes out on the recruiting, and then he goes on, your iClub circuit, whatever it is, Penn State circuit or whatever they call it or whatever. Who cares? You want to win against Ohio State. You want to beat somebody to win the Big Ten championship. You want to get into the final Monday night of the season. And Penn State needs somebody like a Matt Campbell. It may be somebody else, because there are other coaches who are of that same pedigree, but somebody who's tough, hard-nosed, who understands how to get things done and has proven it over and over. I mean, they won 11 games last year. He's taken... and he's done it multiple times. I think that's always, to me, the hallmark of a great coach. And I know Iowa fans are going, what are you doing talking about him? But I think Kirk's the exact same way, which is, it's one thing to do it kind of once. You got your players in place, you punch through, and then a lot of coaches just kind of fade, the average ones. He's done it at multiple times in multiple groups and been successful. So if you're Penn State, you look at that and say, if he could do it with 3-star talent, what can he do at 4-star talent and 5-star talent, and sprinkle them all in and build that culture that he likes? I would totally look at him hard if I were them over Matt Rhule, because
I agree.
Matt Campbell's proven it. Matt Rhule, he's still he won 6 regular season games last year in Nebraska.
Yeah, and honestly, Nebraska, what's their best win this season? Cincinnati, maybe.
Right now it is, because they're 5-1. Yeah.
But I mean, they still haven't really played anybody. I mean, the only team they played of substance really was Michigan, and they lost at home.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, it's not like Nebraska's, to me, has yet to just announce itself on the scene as title contender. I think they're ranked this week now, finally.
Yeah,
but
they're 25th, yeah.
And hey, by the way, side note, frankly, if you're an Iowa fan, if you want your team to make a run, you would prefer Nebraska actually be really good when you meet them, and then beat them. Go beat them in Lincoln if they're really good.
Right.
That's going to make your case better whenever the postseason comes, but that's a very slim chance. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What about the Nebraska opening? Let's say Nebraska does come open. Who would be a good fit there? Let's say Campbell goes to Wisconsin. I mean, I know we're just speculating at this point, but let's say Campbell stays put. All right.
Okay.
Whatever. Just the Nebraska opening. Then, if that becomes, then who do you think, just off the top of your head, becomes a natural fit there?
I think in those respects, you got to look a little bit to the south. You want to start there with Chris Kleiman or Lance Leipold. I think they're both excellent coaches in Kansas State and Kansas, and I think you give them more resources. You give them obviously more NIL at Nebraska than those two have probably combined, and you see what you can build out of that. I think that's where I would start. There are some other ones. I think John Sumrall from Tulane. He's more of a Southerner, but I think he's one that you really start to identify. James Franklin's available. That would be kind of funny actually, but
that'd be hilarious.
I think there's significant, a lot of those types of guys that you would look at. Now to get to the point, I would say that Wisconsin is the one where you wouldn't want Matt because of a couple of reasons. One, as you said, you want to keep one of your rivals down as long as you can. And
exactly.
I think, and what we say is out of respect. Because if he goes there, we think he's going to be good there, and as you said, Kirk is going to shut it down at some time soon, maybe it's 10 years down the road for all we know, but he's going to shut it down. And when he does, you don't want Wisconsin to fill that vacuum with Matt Campbell, because then it may take you 10 years to reach their level if you fall down. So you want to keep him at an even keel. So I think he's very much in that category. Now, go ahead if you had anything. But
no, I was just going to go for it. I had a good segue into game day, but you keep going.
I'll let you go to game day, and then I have another response.
I was going to say, if Matt Campbell went to Wisconsin, that would be a great injection for that program. And one place you can get tremendous injections, or however you want to do it, is Game Day Men's Health. You can boost your T, boost your testosterone. That's the plan I'm on with Game Day Men's Health, testosterone replacement therapy. They can help your mood, help your performance in athletics or workouts or at home, and really just, and I mean, honestly, like I wasn't like trying to lose weight, but even just working out more often and becoming leaner, I've dropped quite a bit of weight too. So it's like, it's not like it's good weight. I've got good weight left is what I should say. So Game Day Men's Health has just been a life changer for me. I know it has been for you too, Scott. And they do a lot more than just testosterone replacement therapy. They've actually just got a text today from them about a weight loss challenge that they're having, where they're giving away prizes for to folks who enter this weight loss challenge. So they do fun stuff there. It's a great place. We got locations that sponsor us in Ankeny, North Liberty, and where I go in West Des Moines. And of course, now they also in Naperville, Illinois, if you're over there in the Chicagoland area, Game Day Men's Health. So visit them at GameDayMen'sHealth.com or stop into one of their locations to check them out. And we heartily endorse them, and not just because they sponsor our show. It really is a great place.
Yeah. For sure. I got a chance to see Alicia this week, which was happy. Made me great Monday morning. Get my boost, see her. She's smiling, happy. It's funny. She was off the week before, and then she told me in there, she's like, you better go over and see Scott this morning because of the podcast. So I thought that was pretty funny. But no, it's great. They're like family, and they, as we all know, they've been really good for both of us and good for me. I haven't been like this in a while, when you can see a 1 on your weight number. That's always a
yeah, man. You're looking good.
Yeah. So, one thing I did want to get into here with this, Chad, was identity. And that is, to me, if anything with what's happened with Wisconsin reinforces to me and should reinforce to Iowa fans is how important a program's identity is. And you must maintain it no matter who the coach is. And in Iowa, because I said for like the last decade, way back when I was with Mark Morehouse talking on this stuff, which was the two most self-aware programs to me in the country for the decade of the tens was Iowa and Wisconsin, because they knew what they were. They knew how to put their program together in the right way that was best for them. Because in Iowa and Wisconsin, you could go to Naperville, Illinois, stop by your GameDay Men's Health and then go to one of the high schools there, or in Aurora or wherever, Hinsdale, and find your best recruits. But you can also go to the small towns. And it was much easier for those schools to go find, Brandon Sheriffs and guys like that than it was to go find elite wide receivers and convince them to go to your school, because that's just not your style of play. And they're not going to go there unless their parents went to there and they love your school. So it's just not going to work. So they built around what they could do and they maximized it. And Wisconsin let that identity go. They went air raid because it's more exciting. We're new wave of football. Well, it's still blocking and tackling. And they don't do either well, along with they didn't do the forward pass well. But all they did all those years, 335-pound, maulers who'd blast you on when they'd pin and pull. And then you'd have an elite running back, which you could recruit to, Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon, Monte Ball, who was just honored Saturday night at the game, College Football Hall of Famer. Those guys made it work, made it happen. And then you had a great defense to go along with it. As we said, Ferentz isn't going to coach forever. Somebody's going to step aside, whether that's a current assistant gets elevated or somebody gets hired to replace him. But I think the one thing that sticks in my mind from watching Wisconsin is, Chad, identity matters so much. And you want somebody who fits the identity. Don't hire a coach and let them kind of change everything you are, because otherwise you could be Wisconsin, which right now has no identity. In fact, its players said that after the game. Christian Allegro, he was like, we have no identity. And Barry Alvarez was like, it's too late for anybody to do anything about it now. And when you have no identity as a team, that's why you're the worst team in the Big Ten. And we've seen it with Iowa, in that you were working at the Gazette at the time, that Hayden Kirk turnover, it takes time, and you don't have time in today's world. So identity, you've got to keep it. You got to keep that focus, to me, the North Star when Kirk hangs it up. Otherwise, you could be Wisconsin.
Well, one thing I think that's become increasingly soaked in for me about Ferentz's identity that's really impressive to me is just how he treats it. And his 6 years in the NFL, he said, really influenced his thinking on this, and just how he understands, Scott, that it is a week-to-week endeavor in football. Like, it's so easy for all of us to make our predictions. Oh, they should beat them. They should beat them. They should beat them. And it's just never that easy unless it's just a complete mismatch. And we saw that with Penn State. It's, it happens. And that's probably the most impressive thing about Ferentz. One of a few probably, but maybe right at the top, is just how he always has his team pointed in the right direction in terms of focusing on the next thing, flushing whatever happened the previous week, moving on. It's all so boring. Like, I talked to Jennings Dunker about this the other day. He's like, I have my notes for my freshman year, and they're the same as they are right now. He hasn't changed anything. He hasn't changed the messages, but he's like, I thought it was a great quote. He's like, but the reason he says the same things over and over is because it's important. It's important. That's the most important thing about football is moving on and not letting your guard down in a physical sport like this. And Iowa, over the years under Kirk Ferentz, has been resilient, really good. Every time they I know you've used the example about Penn State 16 to Michigan 16. It's a great example. But even just little stuff, just think about, hey, losing to Indiana in that fashion and you lose your quarterback. He kept the team together. Didn't know if they were going to have Gronowski back or not, but 2 weeks later, they deliver maybe their best performance of the season, most complete complimentary football performance of the season. They came out of the bye week and they improved. And that's, fair. There's a reason Iowa is 21-2 in its last 23 November games. And it's because they steadily climb. They're focused on improvement. They don't fracture. Ferentz doesn't lose the locker room. It's a really impressive trait, and that's I feel like that's what happened at Penn State in this case. Like they just, at some point, Franklin lost the team, and when was the last time Ferentz lost the team? I mean, it's happened a little bit, maybe, but very, very rarely. And we were even talking on the drive back from Wisconsin, I think. Like I said, what about 14? Because that was, and you made a good point. What you were talking about, they were still like, they almost beat Wisconsin that year, at Kinnick.
They lost their last two games by a total of 5 points.
Yeah, it's exactly like pretty good teams too.
Right.
Bo Pelini got fired because they went 9-3.
Yeah.
So anyway, so when was it? I mean, has he? I mean, even 12 you told me he's like, because I didn't cover that team, but they were playing hard. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they were playing hard and they were hurt. I mean, they lose against Penn State. They lose their two best offensive linemen in the same series. Brandon Sheriff out with a broken leg and Andrew Donnell with an ACL, and that team was pretty sparse on talent. I would say the last time that I've seen this team just really kind of fall apart was 2006. And that was the year that they went 2-6 in the Big Ten. They started off like 5-1 and finished 1-5 to finish the season.
Yeah, they were 4-0, and then they lost to Ohio State in that game. That was the last time GameDay was in Iowa City.
Right, I know, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah,
and that was the last time I saw it. Because even in 2010, people say, "Well, what about that?" Well, if you look at the losses that they had against the competition they had, it came down to the end. The only one that was kind of like was the last one against Minnesota up there, and that. Okay, I'll buy that one. But the rest of them, losing, Dan Persa was a dog. Everybody knew it. And he threw a touchdown and beat him. Terrell Pryor, the loss to Wisconsin, which I've said, is one of the best games I've ever covered and stuff. Right. So I think, the one thing with Iowa is that the consistency does not get discussed enough, broadly or narrowly. And that is that what you're going to get because it doesn't change. As impressive as anything to me was 2022 when they, their offense was dreadful and they go to Ohio State and they have, 400 interceptions in that game, it felt like, and, pick six, just on and through the first pass of the game was an interception, Torrey Taylor trying to take off running on a fake that nobody knew about. They get crushed. And they were at 3-4, and you expect, okay, everything's going to fall apart. No, they put it all together, and they kept winning games. And then ultimately they lost the finale when their best defensive back goes down. Well, one of them.
Yeah, Laporta was out. Cooper DeJean got hurt on the fourth play, and then Petrus got hurt.
Yeah. It's like, it's hard to. Yeah, and they still lost by 7. Yeah.
Still shouldn't have lost, but.
Right. Oh, they shouldn't have lost, But anyway, I think when you look at it, though, Iowa, when it comes to games like this, what's coming up on this weekend, Iowa is the rock that other teams have to break themselves against. That, okay, if you're going to win this game, Penn State, we know you have the talent to win it. You have better talent than Iowa, no question. There are NFL dudes everywhere on this team. But you're going to have to play 4 quarters. You're going to have to be physical. You're going to have to do the fundamentals right. And they haven't done the fundamentals right since last year. they've been very sloppy. All, in their 3 non-con games, they played nobodies. And remember, it was because, well, the SEC doesn't do that, Well, okay. But then they went on, and those lack of fundamentals, that lack of focus translated. And they still almost won all those other 3 games. But after a while, you're like, it's the little things that aren't adding up for you. Whereas for Iowa, it's always the little things adding up right for them. Mm-hmm. So they are a calloused, fighter. They're the 35-year-old graybeard sitting at the end of the bar with a shot and a beer, and you may be big and strong and tough and look the part against them, but it's going to be an all-night job trying to fight, and you really want to battle. And so if this game gets in the fourth quarter, Iowa's ready for it, man. Mm-hmm. Iowa will fight you to the end of dawn. Penn State's got the horses, but will they be willing to do it every single down for 4 quarters in a hostile environment with a brand new quarterback? I don't know. They haven't proven it yet. Now they could, but they haven't proven it to me.
Well, and that's the dynamic I wanted to ask you about with Terry Smith now as the interim coach. Ferentz, all the players said the right things, of course, at Iowa, and they will focus on themselves. There's no reason for them to focus on Penn State. They've got their attention. As Ferentz said, all three coordinators are high-level coaches, and they're still there, and all the players are still there, as far as I know, other than Drew Aller, who was hurt and lost for the season. Big factor in this as we break down this game. But what do you think about kind of the dynamic? Does Penn State rally the troops, so to speak? Now that I think Terry Smith's a pretty popular guy. He's been the associate head coach for 4 or 5 years now. He's been there ever since Franklin started. So he's a guy that at least has that stability, has that gravitas, or whatever you want to call it. So what do you make of the kind of like will Penn State rally the troops, rally around this, or are they dead?
I think we won't know that answer until probably the second half. And they're going to have an emotional punch because they do have, they're playing for something here. They're playing for, they're upset because their coach got fired. They love Terry Smith, but they're still beholden to James Franklin. I mean, he did have a good relationship with them. It's just kind of the mental block that a lot of them had while playing. And so, they could have an emotional response, but those things, and this is something Kirk has always known, and maybe I'm figuring it out at my old age. And that is that emotional responses only last about that long. They last you a couple of hits, and then it's back to your fundamentals and your techniques and how you respond, how you practiced, how you do all those little details through the week, what you saw on tape, how it translates to your practice, how you perform on the field is all interconnected. And because it's a hard game and it's a physical game. And every time you go out there and it's like, yeah, let's go. And then you get popped on the opening kickoff or the first play from scrimmage. And it's like, all right, sometimes that wakes up players. Other times it's like, all right, I don't want to feel this anymore. And you give up. So I think it could have, if they channeled that emotion every day this week, then it could help them. If they just try to get amped up with a big, song in the locker room on their earbuds, and let's do it for Terry. Let's beat those Sochas, then they're dead in the water.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of, because you look at the talent, it's there. They've got a great offensive line. They got 2 outstanding running backs. One that's not playing as well this year, Nick Singleton, but Katron Allen's a stud. They've got the usual athletes on defense. Now, the one thing I would say about Penn State during this 3-game losing streak, as we kind of break down this matchup here, Scott, is that they've been able to be pushed around a little bit in the run game, and that blends well with what Iowa does best. The offensive line. Logan Jones played at a high level the other day, I thought, in that Wisconsin game. And Iowa is, I think that bye week was really good for the health of Bo Stevens, for the health of Jennings Dunker, because they looked a lot fresher. They looked better. feel like Trevor Locke we're not even talking about left tackle.
Yeah.
Remember everything preseason was like, wow, what are they, well, they're pretty good at those other spots, but what about left tackle? We're not even talking about that. He's playing well. Cade Pieper continues to ascend. They're healthy. The running backs, I feel like, Scott, for Iowa are really I like the trio now that they've kind of landed on. It's sort of been a little bit by injury default and all that, but Kamari Moulton, to me, that was probably my biggest thing. Rewatching the game, I felt it live, but rewatching the game on DVR Monday, I was like, wow, like this is the lead back they need. He gets those extra yards. He's got the balance. He's got a little bit of power. He's got a little bit of wiggle. I think the one thing he's missing so far is that long game breaker this year.
Yeah.
But he's close. He's close. He's going to get one of these times. Yeah. And I like Xavier Williams and Nathan McNeil as complementary pieces right now. And it looks like those are going to be the three this week. So to me, it's the old school game plan for me this week. If you're Iowa, is punish them in the run game. Just punish. Be the physical team, because it does not seem like this Penn State team is as physical as maybe it has been in past years, and I think that's where Iowa can earn an advantage at Kinnick, and the crowd will get into it too if they can. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the couple of things that you want to avoid with Penn State is they do have amazing athletes. Dennis Sutton, an incredible defensive end. Zane Durant. They're like top 50 at worst picks in the draft coming up. Their linebackers are pretty good. Dom DeLuca and Tony Rojas, they're really good. They've got some elite, guys in the back end, but so you don't really want to get into a passing game with them because they can rush you. You can get exposed a little bit, and then they have better athletes in the back half. So what do? You body blow. And that's where as you said, that's where they've shown some vulnerability. I mean, they allow 3.6 yards per carry, which may sound like, that's not that bad. Well, considering that 3 of their opponents were nobodies, it is that bad. And it's kind of in those games. Right. And, whereas Iowa's 2.6, so, you've got to figure that out. And then, they allow, just a significant amount. I mean, on total defense, more than 300 yards a game. And other than Oregon, it's not like they've been playing elite level offenses. So they've struggled. And so, to me, it's for Penn State. Yeah. I think they've slipped from like 7th last year to 22nd nationally this year. Now, again, schedule strength is actually less to this point than it would have been in the 15 games last year. But, so they have slipped. They've taken steps back. And I thought, actually watching their tape, well, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah. Aller was not playing well. Yeah, right. And they've got good receivers. They brought him in the portal. We know one of them really well from Troy. Devontae Ross, who he could be a problem still on Saturday. I would look out for him, and they're going to try to tap into what he did at Kinnick last year with 3 60-yard touchdowns, 60-plus yard touchdowns. But anyway, so those are some of I feel like they've just taken some steps back from last year in those areas, but they're still solid. And so you got to play really well to win this game. You have to be cognizant of the athletes that they have. As you mentioned, Devontae Ross, he's a burner. I mean, he had a great play against Northwestern. I mean, he took a play from, inside their 10-yard line, zoomed like 60, 70 yards. I mean, it was really like, wow, look at that elite speed. And, he showed it last year with Troy, obviously. It was just an amazing display there. But I think in some ways that's healthy for the defense to understand, okay, this is who you're going against. Trevor Pena, he was at Syracuse last year, had a really good year, and he's more of a possession receiver, but he's pretty good. Kyron Hudson, he's at USC. He's also a solid receiver, and the running back tandem. I mean, Katron Allen is physical. I was kind of thinking that Kamari Moulton and Xavier Williams are kind of like Katron Allen, Nick Singleton to some extent, and so, but Singleton hasn't had a lot of good statistics yet this year, which I kind of wonder about. But I think. Frankly, I think as we watch this game, Chad, I think what we really need is an easy Eddie.
I think that's probably what what will help people out, going into this game. And that is, if you're watching this game from outside Kinnick Stadium or inside Kinnick Stadium where they sell it, you can go get a Big Grove, and you can go get an Easy Eddie. You can get a 1939, my favorite, Citrus Surfer, their neighborhood beer. Or if you want to just go find somewhere to watch it, downtown Iowa City, it's going to be a madhouse Friday night. You're going to see lots of Nittany Lion fans, lots of Hawkeye fans, probably in upwards of 700 to 800 of them. Cedar Rapids, beautiful location, downtown Cedar Rapids. You can see the Cedar River from there. You got the bridge right on outside. Des Moines, love that spot. Was up there in September before the Cyhawk game. And then there's the OG in Solon. And then if you want to eat, great food there. Can't recommend it so much. I had a burger there a couple weeks ago and the Iowa's open date. So, crack open an Easy Eddie at the stadium or at one of those 4 locations. And then they're opening one in Omaha as well. So if you're out in western Iowa, you want to get the Big Grove flavor, head on over there.
Keep that in mind when the Hawks play the Huskers later this year.
Yeah,
keep that in mind, folks. Yeah, we really, really appreciate Big Grove jumping aboard. It just makes me think back to the Ben McCullum interview we had out there. And, at Iowa Basketball Media Day on Wednesday, it brought that all full circle for me. So fun times. We appreciate Big Grove so much. Surprisingly, Scott, maybe we haven't talked about this yet, but let's do it now, is a backup Penn State quarterback in Kinnick did not go well for the Nittany Lions in 2021. Now, that was in-game circumstances. Obviously, Ethan Grunkemeyer will have a week to prepare here as the starter. He is a redshirt freshman out of the Columbus area, actually, of all places, was the number 5 national recruit in that class, according to the ESPN. So, certainly, as Ferentz said on his radio show Wednesday night, they've got plenty of talent there still at Penn State, even with that quarterback out. So, curious what we should expect. I've kind of asked some of the players on Tuesday, and there's not much film on the guy. He's got 28 snaps this year, and 22 of them were against Nevada. So there's not a ton of film there to watch. He was elevated to the backup role last year when Bo Pribula entered the portal during the playoff. Got into a playoff game and threw an interception on his first play. So that's pretty much the history for Grunkemeyer. Did you see him get lit up in that Northwestern? He played one snap against Northwestern and just about got killed. 4th and 3 after Eller got hurt. And that ended the game. The poor guy. But here he comes into Kinnick for a night game. Yeah. So what do you think? I don't know. You always got to be nervous about backup quarterbacks. You just don't know a lot about them. But Iowa's preparing the offensive coordinator is not going to change anything in 5 days. So they're preparing like Aller is the quarterback, is what I'm saying. Right.
I mean, Andy Kotelnicki is a tremendous offensive coordinator, and he's going to have him ready to go. It's really about, his skill set is higher than any quarterback Iowa has as far as being a passer and having that ability. It's they would love to have him, but to walk into that environment, Iowa has to make that environment work for it. And that includes don't lose track of Devontae Ross, get, some pressure on him, and then make the external part of the game an issue for him, which is it's loud. You can't hear yourself. You're trying to change the play and you can't, and you're looking around and then you make a wrong read and then they intercept you and it just messes with your head. That's what you've got to do because his pure talent is impressive. It really is. He's a really good quarterback. And then you start throwing in everybody else that they have around him. Very impressive. It's just, you've got to, with Iowa, it's the same old, and we'd be saying the same stuff if they were 6-0. We'd just be saying it more with a to it rather than, hey, they're favored. And that is, rely on the things that work for you. Don't get beat on, stop the run, disrupt the passing game. Don't get beat on any big passes. If you do those, I know it sounds so boring.
It does sound, it's not as easy as it sounds either.
No, I know. You know?
You can't stop the run. You can't just load up on the run and then not get burned deep, you know.
Yeah,
you can, but it's hard.
You know, so, you know, in Iowa's case, if you play the way you want to, which is too high safety shell, you leave yourself vulnerable to the run game because you only got 7 in the box. And they've got 2 very capable running backs. And Allen is going to be tough to stop just because he's so physical. And he's a guy you would like to have on your team. And, you know, I think, but you do what, you know, give a little ground like you always do, but, you know, really, you know, sack up on 3rd down and make him beat you with his arm by playing quality defense. And if you get in a position where they beat you deep or they beat you on a play, you know, just flush it, you know, just like Acriman Plumbing in Iowa City will do. And that is, you know, they service the Iowa City area, and we're thankful for their support here on Iowa Everywhere as Legends and Listeners and Instant Iowa. Acriman is only in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and will always be answered in a timely manner, whether it's for a plumbing emergency, routine service and maintenance, equipment replacement, or upgrades like a tankless water heater, water filtration systems. Call Acriman. We love a business that's growing too, and they're looking for another service tech to join their team. So if that's you or you know somebody who might want to do it, reach out to Acriman Plumbing. And a shout out to the Acriman team, Corey, Stacy, Aaron, Nathan, and all the rest. So visit acriman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential plumbing services in the Iowa City region.
Well, Iowa plugged some holes on its defense in interesting ways at Wisconsin, Scott, and I wonder what you think about those changes and what it could mean going forward. Obviously, they pitched a shutout, so it worked pretty well. Jaden Montgomery was in there for Jaden Harrell. We've talked about for a few weeks now, 5 weeks. Probably the 2 biggest weaknesses on the team were middle linebacker and second cornerback, and they've. By injury, they made a change at one, and then by design, they made a change-ish at the other. First off, Jaden Montgomery, I thought, played a really solid game. I thought he was actually probably an upgrade from what we've seen thus far, but it's one game, so let's see how he does against Penn State. But I was impressed with how he handled it, and I thought Carson Shire, PFF didn't like his game for some reason, but I thought Shire was really good against Wisconsin. But the big thing I want to talk to you about, Scott, was the move of Zach Lutmer, Mr. Northwest Iowa, kind of becoming the next Cooper DeJean here. We know he had athletic traits coming in, but he is now floating from cash to corner. And that way, when Iowa does go 4-3, then Deshaun Lee takes a seat. So that, in a way, I mean, in theory, it seems like they feel like that upgrades their second corner by keeping Lutmer on the field, and then you'd have Jackson Rexroth in there instead of Deshaun Lee. So what did you think of that change?
I liked it. I thought, you want to keep your best players on the field. And that's always, that's something that Kirk Ferentz has always built as a hallmark for his program, going all the way back to his 2000 game against Northwestern, where he was asking Norm, he always talks about it, hey, who we're going to change to. He's like, nothing, we're going to keep the same team out there. And then they upset Northwestern, kept the Wildcats from going to the Rose Bowl, and they kind of relied on that. Well, the hallmark of that is get your best players on the field. And I think Zach Lutmer is one of your best 11 players out there. He might be your best, in some respects on defense.
I think he might be their best player on defense. I really do.
And so what you want to do is keep him out there. And what they've done in the past, as we know, with Dane Belton, with Sebastian Castro, certainly Amani Hooker, is they play cash. And then when they go 4-3, then they play safety. Well, in this case, they decided to slide him out. Cooper did that, and then stayed there. Sebastian Castro became your cash, but he's one of your best players. That is a hole. That Deshaun Lee is played better this year, I think, but still there's some inconsistency there. So I think that's a smart move there. And when it comes to middle backer, I thought Jaden Montgomery had a nice game, no question. But the degree of difficulty does move up very quickly here. I mean, you do have some really good players, interior players, like Ione is he's an NFL guy, so a guard. So, we'll know quickly if he's capable of that. But I will say this, and I know it was very limited time at the end of the game, Chad. Cam Buffington can get after it. He is.
He got lost in the wash a couple times, but he's physical, and he found the ball quick.
Yes. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. I don't know about this game, but at some point, man, and I feel the same way about Preston Reese, and I feel the same way about, they're still trying to process the game, but when their athletic ability just jumps out at you, and you just know that at some point, bam, it's going to be there. But I think this is, so I guess for Montgomery, this is what we know if he's a dude or if he's just kind of holding the spot until Jaden Harrell gets back.
Yeah, I thought maybe the Lutmer thing could be like a Wisconsin matchup type thing because they weren't too worried about the receivers. But Ferentz seemed to indicate that this was what they thought they were going to do going forward. So we could see Zach Lutmer on Devontae Ross on Saturday. So we'll see. Lutmer did get beat deep by Rutgers early in that game, but he's been so solid all year. He's been their best playmaker on defense, at least in the back seven. So, I like it too. I'd like to see it continue. I'm a believer in Zach Lutmer for sure. All right, let's get to what do you think happens in this game, Scott? I'll let you go first.
I think this is a game where it's going to be more difficult than the momentum is suggesting right now. And the reason is this still is a really good team. They only have lost by a couple of points in these games. And despite the fact that they've been looked bad, we're holding them to a higher standard than we would other teams. And so if they do what they are capable of doing and deciding, and this is where you got to take the big picture approach on this, and I mean the fans. Penn State is more incapable of taking the opening kickoff and going right down the field and scoring. 8 plays, 75 yards. Katron Allen has a 10-yard run. They hit a quick pass, and then boom, 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 and go down the field. And don't say, oh, this is over. This is where you're Iowa, and you go, okay, we understand it. We took the first blows. Let's settle in. And then you want to get into the Rocky Balboa part of Iowa life, and that is let's just keep rocking them and see what happens. I think Iowa can pull that game out. And I look at it somewhere in the neighborhood of like 22-17 Iowa. I think it's going to be a grind, and I think it's going to take all game. And if it's more than that, it's because there's a turnover or something. But I think Iowa wins, but I think it's going to be a fist fight.
I do too. I think it's going to be tough. I did pick Iowa 21-19 and reverse the 2017 score just for fun. But I think I like Mark Gronowski. I like the trajectory he's on. I think that's we could see him use his legs a little bit more this week. I think that's pretty important. I like his accuracy right now. He missed a few throws in that game, but that was to be expected. But his short passing accuracy was pretty good. I think Vanderzee coming back, that's a big deal. I really liked what I saw from Vanderzee. And then again, I'm a big fan of what Kamari Moulton's doing right now. I think he's not Caleb Johnson just yet, but he's definitely that lead back that they've sort of lacked in those first. Man, they could have used him against Iowa State.
Oh yeah,
there were holes there, and they just couldn't hit him with T.J. Washington and Xavier Williams in that game. So, and they finally did with Patterson later when they finally went to him, but they could have used Moulton that game. But anyway, I like that. So I got him winning a close one, but I just want, I guess, I want fans to understand this is a tough game, and to me, we're at the Register, Tyler and I we're calling this a big game. Iowa has not won a big game for a long time. To me, this still classifies as a big game. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you throw the ranking away. You look at the opponent, where this opponent was, not where it is necessarily, and you still look at the players that they have, and you understand the situation. This is a night game at Kinnick Stadium. This is a stripe-out game. This is Penn State coming to town. They have not played Penn State with a game that did not end under the lights since 2004. That was the 6-4 game. They haven't, because Iowa-Penn State is just a magical atmosphere. It's an awesome rivalry to me because it is a rivalry, and it's an organic one. It was an 11-team league, Chad. There's no reason. They're the tent poles to the Big Ten on opposite sides. Yet they get in there and we'd see Saquon Barkley have 358 yards, yet it took a pass on the game's final play just over the fingertip of an NFL guy in Amani Hooker to score the game-winning touchdown. Or you have Adrian Claiborne's block, or you have Daniel Murray's field goal, or you have, on and on and on, 6-4 and, overtime. You have all these moments that make this such a fun, awesome series. And it's going to, they're going to dig this too. The players are, if they're football players, they're going to like this atmosphere. So I think fans should soak it up, not listen to the negative Nelly say, well, they're not that good, they're not ranked, and so that Kirk Ferentz still hasn't beaten a ranked team. So blah, blah. Just live in the moment, man. Have fun. The season's half over. It's half over. That
sucks. Yeah,
I know.
Hate that.
So suck it up, have fun. And I think
the atmosphere is gonna be great. I think the fans are revved up for this one. I mean, so close against Indiana. I think they can smell some blood here potentially, and I think Xavier Wampa. I'll finish with this. He's looking for some 2021 magic. And it's all the same. I mean, you can see the formula here. Wampa was there. That was his official visit. He ended up coming here, he said, because of that visit. Not solely, but that really tipped him towards Iowa. That top 5 upset or win for the Hawkeyes, the way they did it, the crowd. 8 false starts, backup quarterback. Kinnick made a huge difference in that game. I think that's what the Hawkeye fans want to recreate. And that was just a 3-point win, by the way. All that recreate on this Saturday night. So expect a close game. Should be a lot of fun, Scott. I'll see you there. Right? You're going to write Iowa Angle or Penn State or what?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I would say probably initially Penn State, but I mean, if Iowa keeps winning, I'm going to write Iowa too. I enjoyed that. So, but either way, I'm looking forward to it again. Football is so precious. The football season is precious. You got to soak it up when it's here. And this is one of those pristine moments. You just, bathe in it because, after that, then there's one more game and then another bye. And then you're in the final month. And then all of a sudden you're hearing, they're the day after Thanksgiving going, man, the season's over already. And it's going to happen so quick. So don't let it go. Soak it up. This is the week to do it.
Exactly. Have fun on Saturday, Hawkeye fans, and come back and listen to Legends and Listeners next Thursday, as always, here on Iowa Everywhere.